1. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? Happy we're in the 80s now. We're getting closer and closer to episode 100.
Jeez, don't even say that.
Yep, so close, Dave. And then we'll make crazy goals like 200.
Yeah. 81 consecutive weeks, and I think we're getting close to over 100 pieces of content, right?
Yeah, we might actually.
With a couple of the extra episodes. I mean, with Patreon, like 100%, we're over 100 things, but I think we're really close to 100 unique things on our feed.
93.
93, over 90. Never mind. I can't add, as usual.
But with the Patreon,
yeah.
we're probably at 100 exactly.
All right, so obviously we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts to podcast services every Thursday. We live stream on Twitch, typically on Tuesdays, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. As well as you can just go to our website, digitaldaysgaming.com. It'll take you to the show. It'll allow you to link it up with any of your podcast services. If those services allow you to leave a review, please do so. That's super, super helpful, as well as just sharing the show. You can also follow us on Twitch, like we mentioned before. We're a Twitch affiliate. If you want to use your Amazon Prime sub through Twitch, you can do so. If you want to spend like $5 to help us support us on Twitch, you can do that as well. Everything else is linked in the show notes. Discord, Facebook, Twitters, all that stuff is in the show notes. Please join our community, hang out, have a conversation. A little news heavy, conversational news heavy, I think, this week, and we're going to throw it over to Michael.
All right, we're going to start with a story that's still developing. AT&T has sold Warner Media, the Warner Brothers arm of their company, they spun it off and kind of sold it to the Discovery Network, which, owns Discovery Channel, I think TLC, and a bunch of other networks. And they are going to form a new company. So Warner Brothers is now by itself, and it is joining Discovery to form a new company. AT&T bought Warner Brothers just 3 years ago for $85 billion, and they sold it off for $43 billion. So AT&T
did they sell off everything that they had with it?
That's what we'll get into.
Okay.
They sold all of their Warner Brothers arm, or a majority of it, and came out and were basically saying, we're going back to a telecommunication company. We're not going to try and be a big conglomerate, like a big
conglomerate.
Yeah, we're not going to be. I don't even know if that was the right term to use, so I cut myself off.
No, you're good. I saw this story, and I saw this this talk and speculation when the first story first broke, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait because it's so confusing.
Yeah, basically they're getting rid. They bought Warner's for $85 billion, and then now they're selling it off for $43 billion. So they're willing to take a huge loss in terms of, that initial payment. I'm sure they made a good chunk of money back with HBO Max and everything, but they're gonna just let HBO be its own thing with Discovery Channel, and this includes DC Comics, TNT, like the Turner Networks, Warner Brothers Films, television. And the reason I added this is obviously, HBO has like partnership with Sony for the Last of Us series. And the weird wrinkle is AT&T, with Warner Brothers, owned 11 video game studios. And in this sale, they're not going to sell all 11 studios, or they're not giving all 11 studios away in this deal.
Okay.
And that's where the video game aspect comes into.
Well, I mean, the first thing that pops up in my head is Rocksteady and DC. If they sold the DC license, there's no point in AT&T keeping Rocksteady.
Exactly, and that's the thing that we still need to figure out.
If Rocksteady's future plans after Suicide Squad, which I think they have, that's essentially what Rocksteady is a DC studio at this point in time. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Suicide Squad is supposed to be a game as a service, so that would almost kill Suicide Squad if they kept Rocksteady but didn't have the license.
And you could probably say the same about Warner Brothers Montreal, who are working on Gotham Knights. It would be weird to separate them when the game was delayed an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
But AT&T hasn't really given up the details, because this plan is going to be like the Microsoft Bethesda thing.
Right.
It's going to take a year for this deal to close, but AT&T do plan to keep some of the gaming studios, so that puts question marks around like what's Rocksteady's future, what's NetherRealm's future, and all the other studios that they have. What I would imagine they're doing is, if a studio has a strong mobile,
as a telecommunication
library?
studio or telecommunication company, I could see that. Yeah.
And NetherRealm has some like mobile games that
Mm-hmm.
they've dabbled in, but is that enough for AT&T to keep them? And also, does Discovery? They would probably want it
Right. Well, who owns the
because
Mortal Kombat IP? Warner.
Warner, yeah,
Okay.
Warner.
But we
Unless AT&T peels it off, but that would be so weird since they don't want to be in
so
anymore.
So essentially, Warner's giving NetherRealm permission to use Mortal Kombat's IP, right? Or selling it to
Technically,
yeah.
yeah, because they were acquired, so then it becomes Warner owns
Right.
all of that.
So
Yeah,
that's another thing of like NetherRealm stays on AT&T, but for some reason the Mortal Kombat IP is peeled off. Like that kind of NetherRealm does other things, but again, NetherRealm's bread and butter lately has been Mortal Kombat.
yeah, it's a Mortal Kombat and the Injustice, the DC game Injustice.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
And if Discovery Channel now owns DC Comics, then you would imagine that they would have pulled NetherRealm with them. So this is going to be something we're probably, by the time this comes out, we'll probably know what studios are staying and which studios are going. It's just fascinating to see AT&T just kind of give up.
yeah.
And now, I was looking at the numbers. HBO Max was like they had like some market share that was like in the 30s. And Discovery, with their streaming service, because Discovery owns like 2 or 3 different streaming services, had like 15% of the market. So now with this deal, this new company is number 2 behind Disney in terms of like streaming stuff.
Could you
would imagine
see Warner try to peel off each and like sell Rocksteady and NetherRealm like together to somebody?
That's what a lot of speculation is because remember AT&T last year was like, hey, we're going to sell our video game divisions.
Right.
And apparently Microsoft and EA like kicked the tires of like, well, how much would it be? But the numbers were different. I can see AT&T peeling some back because they see more value in selling them separately to a company.
Yeah,
But if
I think Rock. Okay, so I always forget, but Insomniac was 250 mil. Is that what we?
Yes.
Okay, so as a studio like Rocksteady, I mean half,
they could probably
150.
it depends on how confident the company is in them with potentially without like the Arkham license or because
Right.
is
Yeah,
NetherRealm
that's a
worth
good point.
anything
That's a good point. Okay.
without Injustice?
Yeah, so I
and
guess it
Mortal
depends on
Kombat?
where the license goes first, because like
Yeah.
I guess Discovery could license it out, like Disney's been doing with Star Wars, right?
Yeah, they could. And would that be successful for them? No, it would only be successful if they license it to NetherRealm.
Right.
You know, like if they license it to anyone else, then there's.
But
no
I
point.
could totally see Discovery going, hey, you know what? We don't want to pay the video game bill. You pay us, and you know, I could almost see like Rocksteady trying to. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost for them, but like maybe they try to go independent.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? It's fascinating. I saw all this and I was just like, I just need to wait for some of the dust to settle. And I think that this one's probably even more convoluted than the Bethesda ZeniMax thing because Microsoft bought ZeniMax. They didn't buy like Bethesda or Bethesda sub studios. They bought the publisher and the corporation. And it sounds like Discovery is like, okay, well, we want this, but we only want this, and this inside of that.
And it's even more complicated because it's like AT&T spinning Warner Brothers off, be like, we're done with you, and then merging with Discovery to make a brand new company,
Right.
which is even crazier. And then there's like something where like AT&T stockholders will own 70% of this new company.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we're aware of 11 video game development studios that fall underneath the WB umbrella, but we don't know which of those 11 studios are remaining with AT&T and which of them are going to Discovery as of now, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, as of right now. And the studios obviously are very quiet, which
they have to be because they're paid to be. Like,
yeah, I saw a lot of speculation of like, oh, NetherRealm's been really quiet lately. It's like because they're probably working on their next game, and ideally this wouldn't affect them. The only thing that is kind of scary.
It wouldn't affect them, but it is scary to not think about like where your next check is coming from, or like in that same situation. If I'm the head of Rocksteady. And like I'm, you know, maybe you're not in the loop, maybe you're hearing rumblings, but then you're seeing the same news reports that we're seeing and saying, oh, like there's a good chance your studio has been sold, but there's the possibility that the DC license isn't with that studio. I'd be like, like,
yeah.
As the head of the studio, that would give me like heartburn.
Oh yeah, just because it's like, okay, who the fuck is my boss now? Because they just went over
Well, it's not even who my boss is. My game that I've dedicated the last 5 years of my life, or X amount of years of my life to, that is almost done, like could just get nuked.
Well, yeah, especially like Discovery. Even though Discovery knows what they're buying, Discovery could be. Well, here's the thing: AT&T was considering selling DC Comics or closing DC Comics. Like the actual
and don't
publisher.
get me wrong, like in the long run, I'm sure that there's contracts and codes and things that are written in clauses that are written in any sale, similar to like the Deathloop Ghostwire Tokyo thing with Bethesda. Like those will still coming to PlayStation. This IP deal could have been done already, and no matter what happens, Rocksteady finishes Suicide Squad. No matter what.
But after that's done,
it's terrifying for games as a service.
Yeah, Discovery could be like, we don't want to do this anymore. Like DC Comics in general, like AT&T was just going to turn DC Comic. They were going to close DC Comics, like the comic book, and then just license the brands out. Mm-hmm. We don't know what Discovery plans to do with DC Comics, because they might just do the same thing of just like, let's close the comics and just license out everything to external like comic book writers, external
which is super scary, because somebody's like, I want to reboot Batman again.
Yeah. So we don't know what Discovery's plans are. You know, like the Sony deal with HBO was done under AT&T's umbrella, and it's something in the movie industry, especially the movie, film, Hollywood industry. When a new head of studio takes mantle, they burn everything down at the old CEO.
Yeah, they want their fingers and their signature on everything, and the way that they get their signature on everything is to erase whatever anybody else did.
Yeah, so anything that's currently in production at HBO now has the, unless it's going in production soon. Luckily, Last of Us is going in production very soon, so Last of Us will make it through this, but the commitment could change in terms of, like, oh, we told Pedro Pascal, like, clear out the next 3 years because we're doing this, and now it could be a year-to-year thing, which means you could lose some actors and some projects as they figure out all the dust settling on this. But yeah, the video game thing was the most interesting thing to me, of just like the idea that AT&T is going to cherry pick certain companies. I'm assuming it's going to be all the mobile companies that Warner Brothers most likely owns.
Yeah, but you're right though. If I'm EA, Sony, or Microsoft, I go knock on that door again. Like, hey, like, oh, what's it going to take to maybe, get the studio and the DC stuff? Like, Sony maybe would have a little bit of a financial problem with it, but I think EA and Microsoft could totally buy a studio and buy a property, like a license.
Yeah, and I think Rocksteady is a strong enough studio that even if they lost Arkham, you can probably get people interested in a new IP thing from Rocksteady.
Ninja Turtles.
Which is
Nickelodeon?
Yeah, Nickelodeon. So it's Paramount.
Right. So they could purchase it, hopefully. I mean, like, like they could go and try to purchase the licensing to it or something.
Yeah. So like, but like,
I'm sorry, I still want a 4-player Ninja Turtle Arkham style game. Like,
it would be so good, especially if it's like Ralph in his like trench coat, movie era. But
that's DLC. That's a microtransaction, sir.
But I worry about like a NetherRealm, because I think NetherRealm is they're a great studio, but
could they make a brand new fighting IP? I don't think so.
No, because there's only so much that you can do. We see fighting games come and go, but Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter are like forever franchises. But we'll see how this ends up going. We'll find out more soon, I'm guessing. But don't be surprised if like AT&T just cherry picks some studios just so they can flip them later, because.
Well, I mean, ultimately they lost a significant amount of money here. They're supposedly, it looks like on paper, obviously they're going to try to recoup some of that, and they might be able to recoup some of that by selling these 11 studios a la carte. Because
they tested the waters last year, when companies were like throwing offers at them for some individual studios. So now they know what they can probably get.
Well, and I think that value went up, because since the tires got kicked or whatever, we've seen Insomniac be purchased, we've seen Gearbox get purchased, we've seen ZeniMax get purchased, we've seen Codemasters. No? Yes?
Yeah, EA
Yeah,
bought
Codemasters.
Codemasters.
We've seen a lot of studios get purchased, just to, and those are with arguably like less than stellar-ish games. Like Borderlands is fine, but like Codemasters is a racing studio, which they do a fantastic job, but that doesn't carry as much weight as Batman, or the pedigree that the Batman franchise carried for Rocksteady.
Yeah, Rocksteady could probably fetch them like a decent amount. NetherRealm just on Legacy
Mm-hmm.
can pull stuff in, especially if you can like do a bundle deal of like here's
Right,
NetherRealm with Mortal Kombat
right.
and go from there. There's a lot of possibilities that can come from this, and it's just Warner Brothers though. Like last year around E3, there was talks that they're going to do their own E3 showcase. Then COVID happened, that was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
This year they're back on to be at E3. This
Right.
happens,
Yeah.
so you imagine that has to like throw some wrench in their plans.
Or they're just going to use it as a huge selling point. Like, look at all the stuff we're doing. Don't you want to buy this? Like,
Yeah, E3 is where business happens,
Yeah.
so it could work.
that's crazy. That's just so weird, though. I mean, like, it impacts so much stuff, like television, video games, movies. Like, there's so much that's impacted with this
Yeah.
possible purchase.
And and that's not even touching the fact that there's like thousands of people that are going to be
Mm-hmm.
affected by this change, and the video game industry is already very volatile in terms of like how easy jobs just vanish and stuff. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens from that probably soon. Probably by the time this comes out, we'll probably have some idea of like where NetherRealm, like the big studios, will definitely have figured out within the next week or so. The next story is one of my favorite ways Sony likes to do things. Is they did a Wired interview. Wired seems to be their go-to thing. It's with, I believe, Herman Holst and Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan loves these interviews. The main takeaway that everyone got from this is how many games are currently under development for the PlayStation Studios umbrella. Herman Holst said there are over 25 games currently in development that will be exclusive to PlayStation. This does include second-party titles. So
The new studio.
Jade Raymond's Haven, the ex-Bungie people's Firewalk IP. So it includes that, and then also Sony, I believe, has like 13 internal studios. So you imagine each one has like one to two games.
If you start rattling off the stuff that we think we know about, another God of War, Forbidden West, like another Spider-Man, there's
Ratchet and Clank still counts,
right? If you start rattling some of this down, like it's not like super surprising. I don't know why like there are a lot of people think this is a big deal. Like this is business. Like, and like again, the counterpoint is like, oh, look at all the games they're making. Well, Microsoft has like 20 studios now, so they're like, if they're all working on 2 games, then Microsoft has 40 games in development. Are we going to see 40 games? No. Like,
definitely was one of those news things that seemed very, because there was like a fake list going on last week about like all the games currently in development at Xbox. And then this new story comes out like 2 days later. Being like, well, we have over 25 games.
I mean, The Last of Us remake, the new God of War, like you said, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Forbidden West.
The new Bend game that they got approved to do.
Right.
Sobe Studios are probably working on something
Media
else.
Molecule is doing something. Like, we like...
He said, and this says in development, not like guaranteed to come out soon.
Right.
So Sucker Punch's new game, because guess what? Sucker Punch is going to make a new game, guys.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those news stories. I saw like all the headlines going. I figured I would just throw it in
it's
here
like a
just for the
baseball
laugh.
team having like 40 bats for 20 players. So why?
Guess what? MLB will have a new game next year.
Yeah, that's probably in development too.
Yeah.
Like...
So it was just hilarious seeing people be like, they have so many games in development. And it's like, yes, of course they do. They have 13 or 14 studios. Like,
and like you said, there's always the game. Like, Sony Santa Monica is working on God of War, and then there's something else that's being worked on in this office with like 6 people. Like,
and depending on how far along it is, it probably counts. Which
there's
is why
probably
you said over 25.
2 something else is being worked on by 2 teams of 10 or 12 people, and then if one of it is gonna be like, oh, like this is like we're actually a little farther ahead, and we can actually like show you a prototype. Okay, we're gonna greenlight this game as like we're titling this game. So.
Yeah. It's very easy to imagine each studio has at least 2 things in the oven right now at different stages. look at Insomniac. Insomniac's not a gigantic studio, but they just released, or they're about to have 2 games come out within like 8 months of each other.
Right. In the time it takes to make a baby, they're going to release Ratchet and Clank and Miles Morales.
Yeah, and probably have their next game announced,
right?
like immediately.
Yeah, in
after,
June.
Which is
like, yeah, I mean, like Ratchet and Clank's gonna. Does it come out before? We don't know what Sony hasn't announced what their E3 stuff is.
Yeah,
but
like,
it
would
it's close.
Ideally, come out before. Yeah.
So.
And they'll probably give a Spider-Man teaser because we're probably due for a Spider-Man teaser.
Yeah, I mean,
Morales
Spider-Man 2. I think holiday 2022 is possible.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, they already have it running on.
And this is where this is where you'd see like a title screen for it in June or July. So.
And even though me and Dave talked about like, can they do New York consistently again? Yes, they can because it's Spider-Man. So they already have like a huge chunk of the world.
Now
built.
with sewers.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you can go in the water finally.
No, it's just I mean, like I get it. Like PlayStation's winning. And they're like getting their consoles is hard. Their games are Ratchet and Clank. There's another trailer this week. It looks amazing. Returnal is solid. It's starting to like some of the armor is starting to get some chinks in it though, as more and more people are playing it and more people are getting maybe frustrated with it a little bit.
Some people get frustrated.
Yeah, so
sure.
I mean, and just or understanding exactly what it is or what it's trying to be, and then what they want, and I feel like Housemarque is like kind of bending to what people want more, and I don't like it when studios do that. Because I saw some headline that Housemarque is actively working on some type of save state system, and I'm like, it kind of takes away from the whole foundation of the game you made.
And they're struggling with it because
it's baked into the foundation of the game. Like, so
which I
don't even want it, and I'm one of the people that's struggling with it. But this is what the game is.
I dislike the developers being forced to go against like what their intentional plan was. Their intentions were.
Who was it? Sekiro. Like, wasn't it Sekiro that got so much crap because their game was so hard, and they're like, no, we're not making an easier mode. Like, no.
Yeah, it's like that's not what we do.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about like Returnal. We'll talk a little Returnal later, but I can't get to the 3rd biome. But I'm not mad at the game.
Right.
I just need to get better.
Yeah.
And most likely that means I need to spend significantly more time with this game to do that.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't want to go that way. I didn't want to go like down that hill. But, so yeah, like you said, second parties recently announced Haven and Firewalk. All right, I want to reread the thing. All right, so this is also interesting to me. The next story, Ubisoft plans to focus on a little bit more free to play. And I added the little bit more part to the headline because I think, again, people are freaking out. Ubisoft in an earnings report said they want to move away from releasing 3 to 4 AAA games a year and focus on AAA free-to-play titles. Awesome. Like, I think that's a cool thing. 2 reasons. The first reason is because I feel like you have said before is that they do a lot of like this kind of the same but different. Like, oh, this is like like Ghost Recon and Division and then Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, and that they're not the same character driven games, but at the core gameplay, it's kind of like my criticism of Sony, like they're 3rd person or 1st person open world adventure games. Like,
yeah.
and going true. Go ahead.
Because other studios touch every single game, that's why we get situations where it's like, oh,
the map feels the same. The waypoints feel the same. The menus feel the same because they've got a really good AI team.
It's just like, yes, it does that because it just streamlines their workflow.
Right.
If like they have the same basic core.
So, and then another quote, in line with the evolution of our high quality lineup that is increasingly diverse, we are moving on from our prior comment regarding 3 to 4 premium AAAs per year. Again, I think this is great because they can never really hit these. They would always try to announce 3 to 4 games, and they would always be delayed.
Reality, it's like 2 to 3.
Right.
A year.
And then with one, now the most recent free-to-play, Hyperscape, flopped. And I don't have like pure statistical data that says it flopped, but it's not doing things.
No one talks about it.
And then in response, the Ubisoft rep said that this doesn't mean that they are going to release less premium games. Like, I don't think Watch Dogs is going anywhere. I don't think Far Cry is going anywhere. I don't think Assassin's Creed is going anywhere. I just think that you're going to see more development time for these games. Like, you're not going to see them necessarily annualized as fast. I think you might see Assassin's Creed turn a little bit more into the Far Cry cadence.
Yeah, I can see Assassin's Creed. I don't see a path for Assassin's Creed to go free to play,
Right.
but I can see a path for Far Cry
As a
to go free to
franchise, yeah,
play.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
Um,
Go
and
ahead.
then we have a question in the chat about what does this mean for Beyond Good and Evil 2? That will still release because I feel like they've already committed
Well,
too
this
much to
right,
it.
and this gets into those things like a little behind the curtain for some people of our prior time. Like so, uh, at PS Nation and currently now, we have a fantastic relationship with Ubisoft. And the thing about that relationship with Ubisoft is being even at E3 events, like Beyond Good and Evil was kind of always like off by itself. Like they almost like they had a different PR firm that wasn't handled by Ubisoft directly. It was under Ubisoft's umbrella, but it wasn't the same people. Like I would ask like some of the people that actually have really good relationships with Ubisoft PR, and they would kind of just shrug. They'd be like, "You gotta go ask him," and I'm like, "I don't know him." Like,
Yeah,
so I think
it
that it's
very much
lives in
it
its own
very
bubble.
much felt
So,
felt like a vanity
yeah.
project almost of like we're doing this because people wanted us to do this, but we
I
have
think this
no
is the head of
commitment.
Ubisoft, and his name's escaping me. Guillermo
Yeez,
Yees. Him getting the guy that, and again, I'm terrible with names, as everybody knows.
Mike
But
Ellen's
getting the guy that's
incel, I believe.
really good at that did Beyond Good and Evil, like, hey, we really want you to make this game, and that guy going, okay, well, I don't want to make the game. Well, what's it gonna take to make it for you to make the game? Well, I want this, and this, and he's like, okay, and within those things are, I get to do my own thing. You just pay the bill. I feel.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I think it's still coming. I would assume that we would see something this year at their E3 showcase that they're doing for this game, because it needs to be soon. But I don't think that this lives in the same cadence of that Ubisoft concerned about. Like this studio can just, I feel it can almost. My perception is it can just do what it wants when it wants.
So the head of Beyond Good and Evil, he left to do a wildlife
Oh,
sanctuary
that's right. We
after
talked
all
about
that
that.
stuff
Yeah.
happened. Like he was accused of being, I think, a bully or something. I forget
Yeah.
exactly what his thing was, but he basically was like, "I'm gonna go do a wildlife sanctuary."
Take a
To get
sabbatical.
away. Yeah, it's like he's being accused. He doesn't want to do anything, so he
Right.
bails on the project. So we don't even. Beyond Good and Evil is in that hellscape that Skull and Bones currently is,
Which is
which
apparently is delayed again.
because it probably is going to turn into a free to play game.
And then,
at
you
this
know what?
point.
Like as an example, like that is a perfect free to play model, especially if it
Mhm.
stays in the player versus player or ship versus ship realm, which I don't want it to.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see it trying to do like a better and I haven't played it enough to say it, but like a better Sea of Thieves in
Mhm.
terms of ship combat. But the microtransaction thing does scare me, and it scares me because like that's just not my style of game that I enjoy. But at the same time, I haven't got a chance to sink my teeth into a free to play style game that I may or may not enjoy, because the one hasn't really come out. And if anybody could get one to come out that might get my attention and grab me, it's Ubisoft. To see like the possibility of something like that is super interesting. And when you see numbers like we saw from Apex, I don't blame them. Like they could, if they make 3 or 4, if they try to make 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 free to play games, and one of them turns into half of what Apex is, that's crazy successful.
Yeah, and I think that's also what it help or hurt depending on your opinion, but it's probably something they're considering for Rainbow Six Quarantine of like, will this help or hurt it if we just turn this into a free to play game? Be-
I think
and-
it's too late for some of their announced games personally, but like the Division Heartland thing is probably starting this, and they're like, hey, like let's and then there's more leaks surrounding Division Heartland that are going to be very much like Division 1 survival mode. Which is kind of like a one-off thing, which is perfect for free to play. Like you kind of jump in and, you know, maybe like you buy some other skins or cosmetics, and you have like a battle pass you can purchase and level yourself up to get other things. It's something like that fits into that realm and into that. If they want to continue to build, I don't want to see, like as an example, I don't want to see Far Cry 7 be free to play, but I could see something like Far Cry 6 : New Dawn, like they did with Far Cry 5, maybe being free to play with a different story element to it.
you kind of almost turn to free-to-play games as advertisements to the full-price game that you do.
Hey, you like this
later that year
world?
or
Like, check
next
out
year.
this next game that kind of like teased the story a little bit, or you're seeing events happening around you that are making you wonder what's going on, and you're like, and then like as a teaser to Far Cry 7, like when it like all of a sudden in a seasonal event, a new villain shows up in Far Cry free to play, and that leads into 7. Games are notorious for doing that.
Worst case scenario, they basically release a free-to-play game, it bombs, and then that makes the fan base so much more hungry for the premium game.
But I also think it gives the companies a chance to experiment. Okay, wow, the player base really hated this. We're not doing that in the paid game.
Yeah. Which means it gives their, depending on how they structure this, because again, Ubisoft lets all their studios touch all their games.
Yeah.
If they want to divide things up and actually have a free-to-play team working on it, and then having the base studio working on the actual premium game, that could work. And I also think this is sadly how we're going to get experimentation from big publishers.
Look at Genshin.
Yeah.
Like at Apex, like now this has just made people want more Titanfall.
Yeah. Like I think this is, we always, or at least I complain that like games are too similar, or like we're not seeing like the cool big indie games that we used to see from major publishers, or whatever you'd want to say, like smaller games, not indie games.
That's because the narrative is like, as going back to what we talked about earlier, the narrative is that Resogun's not selling super great.
Yeah, but the only way we're going to get these big publishers to experiment is to just release something free to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then they, with their more like confident franchises and IP, those will get full price games because they're like confident that people will buy in at $70. But their weird experimental stuff as a free to play game, there's less risk for them. And if it works out for them, they make a killing. And
right.
then that
if it doesn't work,
turns
it's
into
not a
something.
huge, like, as much as, you know, Hyperscape maybe struggled, like I'm sure it generated some revenue still.
Yeah.
Like,
and they probably learned a lot about online infrastructure that they'll
Yeah.
apply to other games. That Hyperscape crawled, so hopefully Skull and Bones and Heartland can
Right.
like walk and run.
I mean, we've seen Rocket League kind of go from a paid experience to a free to play experience, and they seem to be doing okay.
Mhm.
You know, there's huge opportunities, and you can argue that Destruction All Stars probably should have been a free to play game. I think Sony's super terrified of free to play after they're drawn to death. Other, you know, experiments they did multiple years ago, which just all flopped all at the same time. You know, I think that they're definitely gun shy, but to see something in that world of like a Splinter Cell style free to play, you want a new Splinter Cell? Let's see how this free to play, you know, gameplay mode works. And this also could just be a heavy focus on mobile too. We've seen them advertise a ton of mobile stuff, ton.
I think the thing that will probably get Sony and other publishers to really jump on it is just to see how Halo's multiplayer does, especially because it's going to be on multiple devices. Like technically you're going to be playing Halo Infinite for free on your mobile phone. Well, not technically free because you have to use like Game Pass Ultimate or whatever.
Yeah, but you
Cloud
can just own an Xbox One and play Halo multiplayer.
Yeah. I think that is going to be something like, if that is successful, I could see Sony maybe looking at stuff and maybe revamping PlayStation Now as like a vehicle for like a free to play game to be able to be played anywhere. Basically kind of do the Fortnite thing. Could be possible from like a Sony, because free to play seems to be working for Activision,
For Epic.
for EA.
Yeah.
So it's really Ubisoft just seeing that and being like, okay, there's 3 cases where they're getting really good success. Let's try it.
How
And
soon do you think until EA tries to do a free to play sports game?
I can see them doing that relatively soon.
Like a
I
different
could totally,
like a different version of FIFA.
so I
Like
don't know if
FIFA
you
Lite or something. You know?
I don't know if you saw, but EA recently did something. There was rumors that they were going to bring back like the EA Big.
Oh, I did see some of that. So where they're experimenting. Yeah, that could be something like an NBA Jam style EA big game that's free to play.
I can see
yeah.
that. Like I think their acquisition
Or another
of Super Mega
another NFL Blitz style thing.
Yeah,
You know,
I think their acquisition of Super Mega Baseball,
which we didn't talk about.
yeah, which I just remembered now.
Yeah. But their
that
their
could
animation
be-
engine with the free to play model of the NFL NBA licenses, like for sure.
Could be their way.
That's
to do
something that could run on a Switch 100%. So, yeah.
So I see them already probably dabbling in that soon.
Yeah.
And Codemasters makes so many racing games. I could totally see them seeing one of the many racing games they're developing.
Endless Runner, NBA Street.
Yeah.
God, please don't really do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But there's definitely a path for them to do something.
Yeah.
But all right, that's it for the big news. I have two small stories that I threw on here since nothing is delayed.
Yeah. This GTA thing is just, it wasn't this announced at this like PS5 next gen event?
Yeah, we already knew about the online thing.
Why is it taking a year and a half to come out?
I don't know. So GTA 5 is going to come to the Series S, X, and PlayStation 5 on November 11th. It will be GTA 5 and GTA Online. There will be separate products or the same. I mean, if you buy GTA 5, you get GTA Online, but you can also buy online standalone.
How is one game going to span 3 generations? Really?
I don't know, because it makes a shit ton of money.
I know. Like, I'm just.
It's not free to play.
Yeah.
If it was free to play, it would probably be as big as Fortnite.
Yeah.
But there's just enough entry in there. This
kudos to them,
is a
man.
Reminder.
Kudos to Rockstar.
Yeah, this is just a reminder though. GTA Online is still going to be free for PlayStation Plus users for the first 3 months. There's no price on what the standalone GTA Online will cost after that, or on
$50.
Xbox.
$30. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, Red Dead is 20.
Yeah.
Red Dead Online is 20. So I'm guessing it'll be 20.
You know how many people are
maybe?
going to have purchased this 3 times?
Yeah, no, and it's not a free upgrade or anything like that. I'm curious to see how it looks, because their jump from PS3 to PS4 was a pretty nice visual
and the
jump.
price was justified 100%.
Yeah, I wonder if there's enough of a jump that isn't just it loads faster, that it's justifiable, especially now, like, since it's not a free upgrade. How much do they plan to charge? Because you can get GTA like anywhere for like $10-$20,
mm-hmm.
and it plays on your PS5 and Xboxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what are they going to put in there that's going to be $20 or $30 worth of saying like, oh yeah, I need to go buy that again, or I'll just backwards compatible play it and I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
and get the same experience, because it is going to probably feature crossplay. Because why wouldn't it?
Right.
Because if they can't kill their community, because that online community is what is keeping that afloat, with all the different like roleplay servers and all the craziness with that. So that's coming out November 11th. And then this article, which is just duh. Jeff Grubb and the Nico Partners analyst said that, or they confirmed, Starfield will be Xbox exclusive, and that is not surprising at all. Turns out Microsoft sees Starfield as a very important part of pushing Game Pass. Surprise.
Yeah, it's shocking. I know. Like, you spent $7 billion on a company and you're going to put them on other platforms. No.
Yeah.
Do you think personally that Starfield and Bethesda can carry enough weight to... I was having this conversation with Angela, and she's talking. Angela tries to always talk from like the average gaming standpoint, of like, we don't know what Starfield is. Like, there's rumors that Starfield might come out this year, and I looked up like Fallout 4's sales, and they're like 13 million, which is really, really good. Fallout 76 sales, not so much. Two different, very style games though. Two different things. Does, in your opinion, because you're kind of more of this genre of gaming than I am, does Starfield have carry the weight for you that Elder Scrolls and Fallout carry?
Yeah, I think it does, because Bethesda has fans. There are people that are fans of Bethesda, not necessarily like they have one allegiance to Fallout or Elder Scrolls. They are fans of Bethesda and Bethesda-styled games. It's why you see, like in BioWare's case, fans that are fans of both Mass Effect and Dragon Age, or people that just like that style of game.
And therefore, they bought Anthem. They bought Anthem because BioWare.
Yes, and most of them were disappointed as hell.
Absolutely.
And I think Bethesda
people bought Fallout 76 because Fallout and Bethesda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those people also hated Fallout 76 because it wasn't developed by Bethesda.
Right.
It was a Bethesda game, but I think the Bethesda fans are smart enough to know when that studio's making a game, and that's how we see a Fallout 76 tank.
Okay.
Well, because of poor development, but
Right.
also it had going against it. Like, this isn't a pure Bethesda game.
Right. All right. And then the next question I have for you is the same question she asked me. Are those fans of Bethesda within the last 6 months already Game Pass subscribers?
That's a tough one. I think when the acquisition was announced and they put all the old Bethesda games on there, I'm sure a huge chunk flocked to there.
Because I think we can say that we've seen an increase of about 6 million Game Pass subscribers since the Bethesda acquisition officially went through, roughly. I mean, maybe 4 to 5 million. Because I think it was like it was at 16 or 17 million, and then it went to we heard like 16 or 17 like in January, February, and now we've heard 23 million in like May. So
yeah,
there's a lot going on in there with Outriders and MLB and the Bethesda acquisition going through, along with a whole dump of Bethesda games to Game Pass.
I think there will be a bigger influx than we saw in this window, because the questions of is the next one exclusive to Game Pass hasn't come out yet.
And then my next question to you, and I know that these are just ones I'm throwing at you, will Starfield be on Steam?
Yes, I think it will.
Okay.
I believe Microsoft is really committed to putting all their games out on Steam.
Okay.
And they said they are revamping the Microsoft Store, but I don't think they have a timeline for that, so I can see it.
Because my initial thought process is you go on your, you're a PC gamer person. You finally hear like in August, Starfield dated November 12th, 2021, and they show all the trailers, and there's all like the Bethesda press conference style through Microsoft, and pre-orders are live now. You go to pre-order it. The first thing you see is $70 for Starfield or $9.99 a month with Game Pass.
Oh, for sure. But the thing with Bethesda, specifically when it comes to like PC, is Bethesda games longevity live and die off that mod community on PC.
Correct.
And Starfield's been in development for before the Microsoft deal, so I feel like a ton of work is already done on PC.
I'm totally cool with it going to Steam, but I was just saying that like I just don't look at somebody and maybe like if Starfield's going to be the only game that they plan on playing for the next 2 or 3 years, like, and that's a possibility. Like, yeah, you spend the $70 and you just don't even look back. But I think if you're on the fence about Starfield and you can see this holiday season like Starfield and Halo coming out with through Game Pass, I think we're going to see the Game Pass subscription count go significantly higher this holiday, like significantly higher.
It definitely will. If Starfield like releases
on top of the fact that they're just going to sell the game at $70, whether that's people just buying it on Xbox for $70, buying it on Steam for $70, buying it on Windows for $70, or buying Game Pass. Like, so it's super, super interesting right now with where all this stuff is coming from and what it's working for. But all these people that are surprised that this is going to happen, like, oh, Microsoft doesn't want to sell games. They do want to sell games. But if you get an increase of 1 million Game Pass subscribers, giving you even $7 a month, and they only stay for like 3 months, you're still generating more revenue than selling 1 million copies of the game at $70.
Yeah, like they're playing a long game. Also, that came from the story. The Nico partners said that Game Pass is the center of their ecosystem from here on out. Not surprising, because that's the game that Microsoft's playing. Like, it's just that's what they're doing. I just found it funny though, because like of all the games that people have been worried about Bethesda, Starfield has no previous games on other platforms.
Right.
So there's less of a reason for them to have the conversation. If we were talking about Fallout or Elder Scrolls 6, then there could be like that little bit chance that it'll release on other platforms. But this has no allegiance with any previous platform. So it being free it's probably
arguably the IP that made, because people feel like Microsoft overpaid for Bethesda. It's probably the IP that made Microsoft overpay for it.
Yeah, they could have seen something, and
the rumors like space combat. Like, I'm seeing a lot of space combat, space dogfighting rumors like behind it. Like, I'll be super fascinated if this June, Microsoft does an event with Bethesda. Bethesda gets its own day or gets its own hour of the event or whatever, and they announce and they show Starfield for the first time, and they say it's coming out this year. Like, I guess to be honest with you, I'll be flabbergasted and surprised and also concerned.
But that would be a huge 1-2 punch for Xbox.
Yeah, absolutely. But it has to be right. Like, so it can't be Fallout 76 again. Like, it can't be.
No, and I think that's why they've been really quiet about it, is they don't want to present anything until they can tell a full story in terms of what their plan is for this game.
Yeah, we've talked about. So he said, somebody in chat, like, the power of a new IP, but I still think Elder Scrolls 6 is coming to PlayStation. Hopefully, is what he's saying. I think something like that's like an MMO style of game, they want it on as many platforms as possible. And I agree with you that I agree with what you're saying, but I could also see Microsoft going, no, like, you need to come to our platform to play this game. And now their platform can be Game Pass as a platform, but their platform, I don't think, can be, well, we're gonna license it to PlayStation 5 as well. I understand what you're saying, and as a consumer, I think that's the right call. But as a company that just paid $7.5 billion for it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's one of those. I guess if Starfield completely bombs and Microsoft is just like, okay, the next Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, but then if you're Sony, you're gonna be like, okay, well, you're gonna pay for this. Like, they're like,
I don't think
you're gonna
Sony
get me
would
a better
care.
deal.
No, I don't think they would even care. Sony would probably just laugh about, like, okay, yeah, bring it to our platform. It doesn't matter. Just bring your game. It's Elder Scrolls 6 is a single player game. Like, no one's gonna, like, freak out like if it comes to the platform. Though Sony would probably, if we're talking about like Elder Scrolls Online 2 or something, I could see Sony going, like, we want the Epic deal.
Right.
With the deal we have with Epic of cross-platform play, we want that for your next MMO.
But I think the caveat is this browser cloud thing. Like, if they can out Stadia, and you can open up your laptop, your HP Chromebook or whatever, and open it up and have the game function well, that's crazy. Like, to where you wouldn't need a $500 box or a $1,000 PC. If they can get the browser play working better than Stadia, which Stadia is not bad, there's just nothing there.
Stadia is the best, but there's just nothing to play it on. Yeah, but that's it for news. Again, weird week. I put those last two stories in just for fun.
All right. So what we're playing and watching, mine's quick. We're still watching just some of the Disney Plus shows. I haven't watched the Bad Batch yet, and I want to. Star Wars Bad Batch. The first episode's like 75 minutes long, which was
so random that they chose. Like, animation costs more money.
Yeah, like I almost feel like you could have just split that into two and, like, threw a to be continued in there if you wanted to, and, like, just because, instead of releasing one episode that's 75 minutes. Now, granted, that's probably like 15 minutes of credits knowing Disney, but still watching a couple just the random Disney Plus shows. Owen wasn't feeling very good over the weekend, so that took up a little bit of time. I had a corporate visit at work, which took up a little bit of my time, and my birthday. So, needless to say, Destiny 2 brought out their season of the Splicer that started on the 11th of May, and they had some terrible server issues that day. Like, probably the worst that they've had since Rise of Iron, which was the end of Destiny 1, which was like 5 years ago. They were having, like, I felt like I was in a time warp, because they're like, oh, if you're on PC and you have more than 40 friends actively playing Destiny, it won't work. And people were getting Honeydew errored out. Like, there's so many errors that this game has, and they're still having some problems with it. And the season feels a little flat right now. The seasonal event is kind of, well, it's not kind of, it is boring. However, the interesting part about it is that me being as much of a Destiny player and lover as I am, I will kind of tolerate certain things in the game if the rewards are worth it, and the guns that they're putting out in the game are really good this season. So it's like, this thing's like an 8-minute like slog that I can kind of start doing with my eyes closed right now. Okay, but the stuff I'm getting at the end is super interesting. So I'm like, oh, I got a bad roll on this. all right, let's go one more time. It's doing that thing again of where like Destiny before was like, this really sucks. Yeah, but the end reward is really good. And it's like, and before it was really good and the end rewards were really bad. So it's like, it's so weird. But the Vault of Glass is coming this upcoming weekend, which is a raid that's 7 years old. The only raid that Michael's ever done and completed is coming back. So I think that personally, I think the player base is going to be agitated with the Vault of Glass, but it's just like I talked about. They're going to do it because the Vault of Glass weapons were considered the top tier weapons in Destiny 1, and most of those weapons are coming back in Destiny 2. That's going to make people go there and want them. The nostalgia thing will be there, and they know the raid. And the raid is actually part of the free-to-play package. Like, you don't have to pay for the season, so you can just play it. You don't have to pay anything as long as you're on level to do it. Good luck getting on level without paying for the content. If you do that, more power to you. That's a heavy grind. Wyatt tried to do it and then just kind of gave up, and it's like, oh, fine, I'll buy it. But not that that's the only reason he bought it, but I think he's actually like some of the changes that happened with it. Not that I'm speaking for him, but he's a good friend of mine that I've played the game with a ton, and he walked away for 6-8 months, and he's kind of dabbling back in. But it's just super interesting with like the cadence that they're doing with some of the stuff. But overall, like if I would say, is this a season that like right now that I would say to jump back in on? Not as much as I feel like last season was. So we'll have to see how the story cadence plays out. And I just haven't had a chance to go back to Returnal yet. I want to do like some additional coverage of Returnal. I'm just in that mode again where I'm having a hard time finding something that grabs my attention other than Destiny, and it's just so easy to pick up Destiny and play. I've got a core group of people that play on PlayStation that are like, hey, I'm doing this tonight. I'm like, okay. And then like last night when I got home from softball, my buddy on Xbox texted me like, hey, we need a 6 for this. Next thing I know, I'm playing the game for like 2.5 hours until like 11:30 at night. So like that's where I'm at with Destiny right now. It's fine. It's not great. It's not terrible. But again, as everybody seems to ask me, is this season worth $10? Right now, I would say I don't think so, and more towards I don't think so versus I don't know yet. So, I'm gonna start this, and this is probably something that's gonna start having me stream a little bit more again because I haven't been doing that either, and it's gonna kind of force me to come downstairs and play because I've been playing upstairs a lot in my living room. We were fortunate enough to get a code sent to us for the PC version of Mass Effect Trilogy. So I will be messing with that. That's a franchise that I have never played before. By the time that we had gotten this code, Michael had already purchased the game. So
yeah, but we got a PC code, I believe.
Right, we did. So. Yeah. So, but it'll just be something that I think that I could play, and you guys could probably watch and kind of maybe like help me because I'm sure a lot of you guys have played through it. But I have never played any of 1, none of 3, and I think maybe like 2 or 3 hours of 2. And that was like a long time ago. That was like on the PS3 days. So
my experience with it.
Yeah.
I've only dabbled with like my weekend kind of got like thrown for a loop, but I ended up playing like hour or 2 of it. So far, I could say it's very pretty. Like they definitely did some good work getting the first game up to like a more presentable standard.
Yeah, I've read like the writing actually holds up. The voice acting's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm like all I can go on is like the visual differences just because I looked at old videos and then I looked at this one. So I'm excited to fully dive into it. I did get a lot of judgment from Sarah because I just used default Shepherd instead of customizing it. Even despite it being a BioWare game where you can customize a character, I just default Shepherd.
Femshep?
I didn't do. No, I just did the box art one.
Female or male?
Male.
Okay, box art. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, original box art one.
Yeah, I don't know what box art is. I buy games digitally.
Yeah. Original Shepherd. I just did like whatever he looked like on that. I tend to do that with like RPGs, even if you can create the character.
I get annoyed. I don't want to care about the eyebrow, like the eyebrow dip.
Yeah. Like same name, Shepherd. Like because it sounds good. Like I went basic with my character creation, but the game looks pretty good so far. I can't wait to see more of it though.
You're playing it on Xbox, right?
I'm playing it on Xbox, yeah. Because Sarah's still deep into Final Fantasy, and there was the Final Fantasy Fan Fest last week, which had a ton of Final Fantasy news.
Yep.
which I didn't put in here.
Cordy Wyatt was all over that. And if you want to know about that, go to Discord. Talk to Cordy Wyatt. Talk to Cordy on Discord.
Yeah.
That's his thing. We might have to get him on and have him do some Final Fantasy breakdown for us. Maybe I don't know if Sarah will go in front of a mic, but maybe you Sarah and Wyatt do a show or something.
Well, we were talking about Wyatt because Sarah was like considering leaving her server just because her current friends aren't playing as often.
Yep.
And I know he plays pretty often. Like if you go on his Discord,
he's
it
on
probably
PC.
says Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
he's on PC, but there's cross-platform.
Yeah.
But they announced during the Fan Fest that they're doing. We would have to leave data centers to play with him. And currently, there's like 3 data centers that she would have to travel between. And you can't do that, so she would have to pay a server fee to transfer data centers.
Ouch.
But they announced at the Fan Fest that they're going to include data, like travel between data centers. That's coming.
You can farm this material to transfer it.
So that made her excited because
somebody
right
saying
now,
it's $10.
It's $10.
Yeah. $10 just to move your character to a different server? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. To move it to a different data center.
And we criticize Call of Duty for selling a red dot.
It's very specific, and you lose some like leaderboard stuff. I forget. We were looking through it because
I'm just waiting for some like shoe to fly across the room, or like if you're saying the wrong thing, and Sarah's like across the room just to stop it.
No, like, but the good thing is they're gonna add data center travel, and right now, like my friends from high school play, but they play on a different data center.
Okay.
Wyatt is on a different data center, and then her friends are on a data center, so she wants to play with everybody. But can't without having to pay $10.
Put everybody on one center?
Nope, it's just people pick different data centers.
No, but I mean, can't you guys all like make? I mean, I guess it depends on how many people you have playing. So
everyone's in different free companies, so they're established in their clans or whatever. So the data center travel is a huge thing, and also male bunnies are happening, and that's just all I kept hearing about on Twitter and from her and my friends. A bunny class. You could only have girls, and now there's boy bunnies. Vera? Cordy, Wyatt, Veras? Are the bunnies Veras? There's now Veras. But yeah, that is
Michael's
why
either getting a ton of cool points today or none. There's no truth.
Male Vera. Okay. And that is why I bought Mass Effect on Xbox. It's because my Xbox doesn't have Final Fantasy installed on it. So that's mostly what I've been playing, other than banging my head against Returnal, but enjoying it as I'm doing it. I just can't get past the second boss for whatever reason, but honestly, if you look at my total death count in the game, I'm only at like 25 deaths, which isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But it's just because
you die and you probably stop, right? Like you're like, all right, I'm putting it down. So
I'll keep doing it, but like the problem I have is if I take 2 days off from it because I'm playing other games, I just can't get into the rhythm, and it's just one of those things where I want to get into a stretch where it's like, okay, I'm gonna play Returnal every single day, because by the end of my runs, I'm burning through the 2 levels without any difficulty.
Wait, you can't just like key out of the first biome?
I run through it every time.
For materials and weapons and stuff? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
Just to build up.
Okay.
And I get really good as I'm getting really tired because I'm at the end of like my 3-4 hour session. So like I just need to not take breaks from the game in terms of like.
And I'll be honest with you, that's the part that kind of scares me, though, that it's you're telling me that, you're kind of running through something and it's taking you 3 hours to get to the second boss. Yes, I know you can checkpoint to the second biome, or then once you beat the second boss, you can checkpoint to the third biome. Like, I get that. But it's still one of those things where it's like, I mean,
I also really like the first biome. I really like that section.
Gameplay always wins. I've said that for years. And if the gameplay is good and you can play the same level and over again, if it's unique and fun and good, and that's fine. The concern that I have, the worry that I have, is just stupid things that are happening in my house lately. Like, my dog will jump on the couch, okay? And he'll step on the Roku remote. And when he steps on the Roku remote, it puts the Roku on the TV. Like, it puts the menu on the TV when I'm in the middle of the game. Like, yeah, I can hopefully hit the options button, or I love her to death. My wife walked in front of me slow today in front of the TV. Like I got, like in Destiny, it's not as big of a deal, even though I got agitated with it. If she killed me, if that caused me to die in Returnal, I would probably be very agitated. So
See, I'm trained to just have cats throwing themselves at me while I play. So I don't mind.
yeah.
I also don't freak out if I die. Like there's been a couple times where I
I
died
don't
'cause
necessarily
I got
wouldn't
distracted.
freak out, but like I don't know. I feel like if a game kills me because of a poor game mechanic, I do get very annoyed. If I mess up, I'm like, all right, I screwed up. Like I
I
can.
get annoyed because sometimes in Returnal, I hate this. So they do give you like in like a like one life to where if you fall down a hole, it'll respawn you. Like
Yeah, I've
it's
done that.
okay,
I've done that
doesn't
before. Like
count.
I didn't know I couldn't go in the water.
Yeah, I get absolutely frustrated when I'm going through a run, I'm doing pretty well, and then I fuck up and then I miss a platform, or I just like, oh shit, I jumped in water accidentally, and I lose that like give me life.
Uh-huh.
Like it pisses me off. Like
Well,
that
there
will
was
ruin
one
my
point in time where
runs.
I thought I saw materials in the water,
That happens a lot.
and I
Yeah.
can't go in the water.
Yes. That shit bothers me so much. And I'll see some good colors coming from that water. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, I know what that could be, and it kind of frustrates me.
Okay.
I think they said they're working on that, or maybe in the third or fourth, fifth biome there'll be a
like
thing
you get an
going on.
artifact or a what's the thing that attaches to your
a
parasite that lets you go in the
Yeah, that
water,
lets
maybe
me-
that we don't know
Yeah,
about.
hopefully.
Somebody's
And
probably
then I'll just-
screaming at the radio, like at their
Yeah, and then I'll
phone.
have to backtrack to three biomes later to go in there. So that's primarily what I've been playing. I have been messing with Rocat sent us a keyboard for review. It's the Rocat Pyro, which comes out later this month, I believe. It's a pretty solid mechanical keyboard. It is like linear red switches in it, which means they're clicky, but it doesn't have like a super loud click.
Yeah,
Like
it's
almost feels
it's a mechanical
little...
keyboard without that definitely, because I have a similar keyboard to what he has. And the nice thing about it is it gives you that feel of like
the initial.
yeah, but it's not
yeah.
it's not one of those things where you just you can hear somebody like hammering away on their keyboard like out through the microphone. So they actually like, I was really worried about that when I got it like a year ago, and I think I talked about it like a year ago. But definitely Michael's got another version of what we had, and Rocat is another company that's been super good to us.
Yeah, so this one, it's red switch. Keyboard people would know like exactly how clicky that is because it's all pretty standardized. So the red switch means it's like got a decent sounding click because that's very important for mechanical keyboards, at least for me and most people. But it's because it's a red switch, when it actually presses fully down, there's not like a huge amount of feedback on it. So it's not like typing in a typewriter, which you could totally get. I think that's brown or black, I believe, or that type of thing. This one, because it's Rocat, it has like the Swarm software to get like the customization for the LED lights, which I really love the customization options that it gives you for the LEDs because I like having a bright and colorful keyboard. Because I have a Fnatic keyboard, the Fnatic Streak, which looks good, has really nice LED lights. Customization, you kind of just have to work with the presets that you have. The Rocat has presets that you can work with that are actually pretty nice, but it also lets you customize different parts of the keyboard. So I can have different colors or different effects going on the numpad, the functionality keys, or the actual keyboard, or specifically WASD, the movement keys for a lot of games. So you can really customize the LEDs, and it looks really nice because the keyboard has like a aluminum plasticky kind of finish. Like it definitely looks aluminum. It doesn't feel aluminum.
Yeah,
feels
it's not
plastic.
like cold. It's never
Yeah,
cold
yeah.
enough to the touch, but it actually has enough of like a textured feeling to it that kind of like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make it feel like plastic, but
It gives it a really nice look, especially with the LEDs hitting like that like brushed aluminum finish. It looks really nice. So I'm using that. Sarah's been using it for work for the last 2 days, so she likes the way it types and feels. The only parts that I'm having some issues with is sometimes when I turn on my computer, the keyboard kind of forgets the profile I set up for the LED lights. I'm hoping, because it works for the most part, I'm guessing that is something that can be handled with a software update later down the road. Again, this is technically pre-release, so there could be more firmware coming down. I'm going to actually email out and I'll follow up next week with the response that way. It does come with a palm rest, though the palm rest is like just kind of plasticky. Definitely doesn't feel like a premium palm rest. Yeah, it's just a hard plastic sort of palm rest. Mine's more rounded than the one Dave's showing on the Twitch stream. I wish that was a little different, but it's a minor issue with a really good $100 keyboard.
Yeah, I was gonna say for like $100, like their stuff is like really good.
Yeah, so like it definitely has a good quality to it. It has a nice feel. It has one of my favorite features, which I only buy keyboards if they have volume wheels on them. So I can control like the audio with like a knob as opposed to like having to click around or hitting a button. I don't know why I'm weird and I like if there's a good volume wheel or volume knob built into the keyboard. This one sticks out pretty well, so it's easy to find and grip on it. Keyboard had a wheel, but it's so into the keyboard you almost press other keys to get to it. This one has like an actual like radio knob that like sticks out well enough that it's easy to like get to without having to look at the keyboard. But overall, I'm enjoying it.
Nice.
Just got to put it through a couple more tests. They do advertise like it's been tested to handle 50 million keystrokes. I won't hit 50 million keystrokes in the next week, but hoping a full work week with Sarah using it because she works from home, and then me gaming on it every night will really run it through and see how well it holds up. But definitely, if you're looking for a keyboard and don't want to spend a ton of money, $100 is a decent price for a mechanical keyboard with these features. Definitely something to look into. Like the keyboard that I usually have, the Fnatic one, I believe was like $120, $150. And the differences between the two aren't that huge to where this could definitely become my primary keyboard based on like the first 5 days that I've had it.
Very cool.
So we'll find out a little bit more next week in terms of how well it holds up to several hours of gaming every single night.
Yeah, I really want to find like
stuff.
like Rocat's been really cool. Like since we started Digital Days, I really want to find a game on PC that would almost everything I play is like a lot of the games I play, like Fallen Order that I played on PC, and then even if I play Mass Effect on PC, it's probably going to be better with a controller. So I really would like to find a game that I may enjoy that would kind of get me into keyboard and mouse playing. So
I would pay to have you play League of Legends. Just run through League of Legends. And that would be entertaining to me. Just throw you in with like people that already play League of Legends.
Yeah, I've got a good friend that's really into League. So
a lot of my friends are super into it.
Yeah, I've got a really good friend that's really into League. So I could definitely, but I doubt that that's going to be a thing I do. So
yeah.
You watch anything or?
Nah, not really.
Other than the stuff you watch for your podcast now.
Yeah, every movie ever. I mean, I watched like an okay horror movie and then an okay failed pilot that was turned into a movie. That's fine. You can find that stuff. I'm just enjoying watching random movies, but a lot of weird stuff that nice. I know Dave's like, I would never watch movies.
I've watched some pretty weird stuff on Netflix before. But usually it ends up being some kind of like just bad sports movie. So. Yeah,
no, I'm going all in on this thing. I think the next movie we have to watch is like a bad romantic comedy that looks like it should never have been released. It looks like a bad Lifetime.
Do you want to give anybody any insight of how you pick these movies, or?
Yeah, so for every movie ever, what we do is I go to, what is it? I type in roulette Netflix.
Okay, so that is a thing. Google. Okay, all right. I just didn't know if you did like the recommend thing, surprise me, and kept clicking.
No. So what I end up doing is I go to realgood.com and it lets you pick what streaming services you have.
Okay.
And then it lets you spin and it'll give you a random movie or TV show. And whatever movie comes on, as long as it's not a documentary or stand-up special,
Okay.
that's the movie we watch that week. And we do 2 movies a week.
Okay.
So sometimes we get. So last week I watched Horse Girl, which is a really good like sci-fi drama, and then the movie that was paired with it was Jinxed, which is a Nickelodeon original movie from like 2013. So 2 completely different types of movies is what we watched, and then kind of like unintentionally compared the 2, because that's what usually happens when you have 2 movies.
Right.
Is you compare 2 movies that shouldn't ever be compared to each
Yeah,
other.
but if you watch one on a Tuesday and one on a Wednesday, it's inevitable that you compare them. So.
Yeah. So we watch a bunch of random stuff on that. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but
Nice.
it's usually pretty entertaining.
All right. So questions and comments. You guys can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. This is a perfect example. Michael and I kind of both forgot to ask for questions for this week's show, but that doesn't mean you have to wait for us to ask for you guys to send them. You can, use the hashtag AskDigitalDays on Twitter. You can go into the Discord server, and there's a AskDigitalDays channel there. You can just post them on Facebook. Or like sometimes we'll just pull questions from Facebook that people post on there just in general, whether it's a question to us or to the community. So you don't necessarily have to wait for typically Michael to post the thread. You can just feel free to ask the question. You can email them to us, podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. Again, you can tweet us, all that stuff. There's multiple ways to contact us that you can send them. So please send some of that stuff, gaming, non-gaming, recommendations, conversation starters, any of those are fine. Spotlight Patreon. Our spotlight for this week is our Patreon, and as well as like what Michael just talked about with his other secondary podcast, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, where we just did April's episode, which was baseball. And May is, I believe, going to be Mortal Kombat. We're going to just kind of dive into Mortal Kombat when Michael and I schedule line up, and we'll post that. So if you have any interest in that, as well as subscribing to the $7 tier for the bonus content, get you access to every bonus episode we've done. And it's almost a year old since we started doing them. So that you get like 12, almost 10, like right now, like 10 episodes for sure, that you can go back and listen to. And some of them are, month oriented, but they're still always great to listen to in terms of getting to know us a little bit better as non-gaming people necessarily, as well as some deeper gaming stories that we don't go into massive details on here. So you can check that out. $5 Patreon support gets you 24-hour early access to the podcast, so you get it on Wednesday instead of Thursday. You get a direct RSS private feed that you can open up in most podcast services. So if that's something you're worried about, you can. It works on my Podcast Addict. $3 gets you access to a private Discord channel, and $1 is just a tip jar. Just as an example, the $1 Patreon is it's almost enough support if you did it for the whole year to pay for a month of podcast hosting for us, and that's a super helpful gesture if you so choose. But please, again, do not support us on Patreon if you are not financially able to do so. We are doing fine. We don't need Patreon. It's just something that we give as an option to the community to help us. The support that you guys have given us has helped us do things to allow better coverage. But in no way do I want anybody to feel obligated to support us on Patreon. Nor subscribe to us on Twitch if they don't have the ability to do so. Those are just all multiple revenue sources for you guys, support sources for you guys to show support to us and help us. But they are no means required. You downloading the show is fantastic already, and nothing additional needs to happen there. So the social networks, you can follow us, the main account at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at at the first MJC. I don't know why I have a hard time with that lady. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Join the Facebook group.
One, right?
Yeah, of course, it's mine. So you can follow. You can join the Discord server, like we said, and then obviously, it's just one more time, the Patreon is. All those links are in the show notes. So feel free to check those out. Sharing the show, leaving reviews is the easiest way to help us grow and to expose us to more players and people in the community. So, got anything else?
No. We'll just next week we might have an earlier show. I believe
schedule depending.
We're still working on the schedules. But yeah, we'll have
softball's getting in the way. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be an athlete after taking a year off. My legs hurt yesterday.
So next week we'll hopefully have a deeper discussion on Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and then final verdict on this keyboard. And I think we might have some headphone talk next week. I'm not too sure.
Maybe. So.
Maybe.
All right. Everyone go out there. Have a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.